So think about the last time you learned something, and not just passively learning it by coming across a post on your Instagram scroll. I see you, I'm that person too. But when was the last time you actively sought out knowledge or new ways of thinking? In many cases, personal learning, personal thinking, and growth were habits reserved for the classroom. But my next guest says many of the problems we're facing today could be resolved if more people were actively learning. Studio 5 relationship contributor Dr. Matt Townsend is here to help us elevate our lives by elevating our learning. You're a good, let me just compliment you for a minute. You're a good case study, a good poster child for this, because you're constantly seeking out the next layer.
And I do it on TikTok. And then I'll go dig deeper. But it's my life, right? Like, and what I find is, and we'll get into this, it'll solve your problems. Like, all the information's there. We don't have to just keep taking the same beating emotionally, socially, physically. We can actually learn our way out of stuff. And then you can create a habit. And then all of a sudden, you don't have to think about it anymore. It's just reactively there.
What prevents the modern day person from learning? Are we just lazy? I mean, the information is there, like you said, it's a Google search away.
It's too easy. It's too easy. Like, you used to have to work to get out of the hole. But now we can do anything. The data's too easy. The information's everywhere. We have too many people telling us how to do it. By the way, and most of them haven't even learned.
I was gonna say, we're letting them, right? We're letting them tell us how to do it.
Everybody can be an expert on something. And so part of this that I just want us all to start realizing it's not school where we learn. It's not, there's no one way to do this. It's just part of life. And so make it a part of our life.
You have 5 lessons about learning that will make the process more meaningful and also motivating. First, you say humility fosters learning. It
fosters learning. Humility creates the lack of ego, the lack of self-confidence where if you're too confident, you don't think you need to know anything, right? Because you already know everything. So I always joke that humility is either sought, you either look for it, or you're caught without it. And so there's a great definition. Listen to this. Humility is defined by Merriam-Webster as the freedom from pride or arrogance, the quality or state of being humble. If we're too sure we know, and we have a lot of people all over the world way confident they know. And the reality is most of us don't know. And what we really don't know is what we don't know until all of a sudden you realize, I don't have a clue on that one. So find a way to humble yourself. Find your most humbling moments every single day and see if we can't learn. Find the most important relationships and see what you need to learn. Like, how many people out there actively want to get feedback? And the reason we don't want feedback is because it'll injure our pride. And then the pride keeps us from wanting to learn. So you got to engage some humility, and it's either going to be forced upon you or you can go intentionally start to find it.
I was talking to someone the other day who said, the older I get, the less sure I am. And not in a weak way, but just in a humble way, in a vulnerable way. Like, I have more to learn. I have more to figure out.
And and then all of a sudden you're more humble as you're aging too. Like, that's nice, right? You feel like you got beat up just sleeping, and then all of a sudden you're like, what's happening to me?
What's happening?
So you have to learn.
Taking action is required.
We think that like sitting in a room or being taught or somebody telling us what to do is going to work. In all cases I've ever learned, I can bring the learning right to somebody's doorstep and hand it to them. But until they act out and bring it into their heart, it won't do anything. Action is required. We're beings of activity. We're free agents, and the minute we are actively trying to choose to learn, which means anytime you want to create learning, don't feed it. Ask more questions. So, ask your kids, how would you solve that? And then that forces them to have to choose to get involved and start to act, even if they're just acting in their mind. Action is what converts us eventually. It also is what tests all of our learning. Eventually, we have to test the hypothesis. And that takes activity.
Trust that you know more than you think.
Gut. Trust your gut.
Like intuition?
Trust your intuition. Trust that your history matters. See, you don't need to be a lawyer to know that a drunk driver is harmful. You don't need to be a therapist to know when someone's sad. You don't need formal learning. We all have gut, we have intuition, we have senses. We know what we know, but we tend to value science a lot more. We tend to value the doctor, the PhD more. But in reality, trust your gut. If your gut's telling something's going on in your marriage, trust it. Then seek deeper learning and seek an opportunity to grow out of it.
I've never relied on that more than when I became a mother, which you hear about that all the time, but it's real. It takes trust, though. It takes that trust of self to know that what you're feeling or what your impression is sound.
And when you dial in all these other ways that you know things, and you get better at knowing and you trust them more, your confidence goes up, and you don't just have to read a book to know. You also know how you like to learn and how you work best.
You want people to understand that learning isn't an all or nothing game. Like, it's an incremental layer upon layer process.
In fact, really cool idea about this is that as you learn through your life, I might pick up something here, and then I pick up something here, and weirdly, those two ideas that never went together are in my life and in my mind, and they can come together. There's a book called Range, and in the book Range, they're finding out that having a doctor that's really deeply learned in one field is not as valuable at problem solving as having a doctor who studied multiple fields and a variety of different areas. So this difference and the breakdown of disparity in our mind, so it doesn't matter if you're a mom and you understand clothes, but we need to solve a problem of how to fit a locker. Those three things can actually come together to create a new idea and new learning. So trust the fact that it's not going to be all at once, and everything you've brought in this game is going to impact where you are, and it can impact where you're going.
I love that. I love that so much. Learning is the path to a more whole life. What do you mean by whole?
Whole, to me, whenever I think of the word healthy, I think of whole. To have a healthy life, we have to have physical strength and learning, social strength, emotional, spiritual, financial, mental strength. So learning is not just about being really good at one field. It's taking my body and learning better that, you know what, certain restaurants don't work with Matt. And it's taking my spirit and figuring out how I can create peace in a tense moment. And it's taking my relationships and identifying how my past affects my present. And these are all just little things we can start doing. So the challenge to everyone is, the key to all learning is take your biggest pain, and don't name him, but take the pain you're having in your life and hold it out as the invitation now to go learn. Whatever the pain you're suffering in any of those areas, use that. You've now been invited to learn. Now go deepen your understanding around it. Find answers, find solutions, find best practices, find people that are good at that, and start asking questions and being inquisitive. And then as you take that invitation, you'll see it's no longer a pain. It's actually a seed that's grown something really beautiful, a tree that actually is more beautiful than you could have ever thought came from that little pain.
I love that analogy, and I love the challenge to remove it from yourself. Like, we think of pain as part of us. I'm feeling it. Thus it is part of myself. You're saying,
that's right,
separate it.
And generationally,
and study it.
Think what that does is I now have taught my kids, you're not stuck. Pain and your position and your history and your situation it's not who you are. It's just the seed that will grow who you will be.
Well, wise words, Mr. Matt. Thank you so much. Very good. You shared wisdom with some couples over the weekend with your couples workshop. It was fantastic. You've got some new programs coming up down the pipe.
So much stuff. In fact, a new coaching program, which is another thing I'm learning. I'm launching a coaching program. So if you want to be a coach in the next couple months, we're laying it out. But I'm actually having to learn technology. And it's killing me.
That's a beast.
So that's coming up. Just go to matttownsend.com and you can get all the information.
All right. We'll link you over. Be sure to bookmark that and check back now and then for programs that can help strengthen you and strengthen your marriage too. Thank you, friend. Nice job.
Britt.